Very good. Good evening, everyone. This is the Red Hook Town Board meeting of March 13th, 2018. Would you be kind enough to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for coming out. Thank Mother Nature for not giving us the third nor'easter as it might have turned out to be today. Steve, for the folks at home, we have, per usual, the agenda for tonight's meeting so they can decide how long they'd like to stick with us.
What do you think? Do you want to update later or update now?
I can't do it. It's actually that needs to be updated. Unfortunately, I think if I click. Yeah. All right. Very good. All set. Thank you very much. So it's the first meeting of the month, and we start those meetings with the supervisor's report. And that is a summary report of the conditions of the town's finances. And hopefully you all can read. We'll pull this up for you. The opening balance, this is for the period ending February 28th, 2018. We started the month out with $3,993,000, receipts of $318,000 and change, disbursements of $179,526, leaving a remaining balance of $4,032,265. And we also have your bank statements. We also have some adjustments from our bookkeeper, Ann Conway, and I would direct your attention, in response to the need to acquire another brush truck and authorize the purchase of that for up to, not to exceed $90,000. We've made some adjustments, allocations from our unappropriated reserve accounts, moving money from the B unappropriated to the DB, and then moving money from the DB into the capital accounts. And that is included in your budget adjustments that you have. We have a total of $35,000 coming from B into DB, and then another, $25,000 from B into DB, and then the remaining come from DB unappropriated reserves. 30,000 of which will come in the 2018 period. We hope to recoup about 20-some-odd thousand from FEMA monies that we expended in 17, so hopefully that will offset the majority of that. Are there any other questions about the budget adjustments? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve them.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. At this time, if we could have the clerk's report, Sid.
Town Clerk's monthly report for February 2018. Total local shares remitted to supervisor as revenue, $2,946.16. Amount remitted to New York State Ag and Markets for the Spayed and Neutered program, $60. Amount remitted to New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $45. An amount remitted to New York Environmental Conservation, $28.34, for a total state, county, and local revenue of $3,079.50. Pursuant to Section 27, Sub 1 of the town law, I hereby certify that the foregoing is a full and true statement of all fees and monies received by me, Sue McCann, town clerk, during the period stated above in connection with my office. I also have 2 abstracts. One is for November of 2017, and this is just verifying and certifying that vouchers 22672 through 22742 were processed in the month of November, and the total abstract was $355,086.66. I also have one for December, and this is certifying vouchers 22672 through 22742 were processed in the month of December, and the total abstract $560,090.39. And that's it.
Very good, thank you very much, Sue. Is there a motion to accept the clerk's report?
So moved.
Okay, I will second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you very much. Okay. Well, we hope to have a very short and enjoyable meeting tonight, and I can't think of anything better to enjoy ourselves than to talk about playground equipment. And so we have a very brief presentation, I believe. Who's going to do the presentation here?
It's sort of probably three of us.
Okay,
Does anyone want to speak?
share the word. Yeah, I just asked that, Harry.
Oh.
So,
I wasn't listening.
I can sort of start off
Shayna,
A
that'd be
little bit.
great.
of the history. Last spring, and so I live right near,
Yeah. Shayna,
over
first
here.
of all, tell us who you are.
Oh.
I know who you are, but they may not.
Shayna Weiler. And I live right near the rec park and take my kids down there all the time. And they've grown up there. And one of the things that I personally had noticed was that the playground equipment I felt it needed to be updated. And last spring, I just put out a Survey Monkey out to, kind of on Red Hook Moms and just out to the community if it got out to other people in other ways. With just three sort of very brief questions. How often do you use the rec park during nice weather? Would you support new playground equipment? And then the third question was how much would you be willing to donate to help fund new playground equipment? And really, overall, there were about almost 90 responses and overwhelming support from the community for new playground equipment. And so that just sort of launched us into this endeavor to try to figure out, okay, well, if this is what the community wants, is it supported by the Rec Park Commission, and how do we go about doing this? Actually, Lior is from Parkitects and kind of got connected with him, and this is what they do playgrounds. So Sarah, I don't know if you want to
Sure, yeah, so,
take it from here.
yeah, so Shayna approached us with the survey results, and I think the town board gave sort of a general nod to, yes, this is a good idea to look into. We brought the survey results to the rec commission. Shannon Miller, who's here, is on our rec commission, and last night we presented all these materials to them, and they gave us their 2 thumbs up. So we've been working with the rec commission the whole time. Very early on, we looked around to see where else locally have municipalities put in new playgrounds that looked good, and one of the firms that we found that's also under the state contract for purchasing equipment like this, which is huge because it means we wouldn't have to go through a huge RFP and figuring out who to do this with process, because the state has already done a lot of that work for us. So one of those firms was Parkitects, and so we've done our due diligence anyway, even though we really didn't need to, and called around to 3 other municipalities and kind of also just worked with Lior a little bit and his people, and been really happy with what they've provided us. So you can see here in your packets that they have given us, I mean, this is probably draft 5 or so. We've had several versions of these renderings as we've sort of worked through what equipment would best serve Red Hook. And really, what we came up with is our goals were to renovate the playground to provide better equipment, safer equipment. Right now, what we have, of course, passes our insurance, standards. So we're not saying that anybody is exactly unsafe being there, but we felt like, newer equipment would also be, there's like, whatever. It's old equipment, and a lot of parents feel concerned about it, and that's borne out in the survey results. And also to make our playground even more accessible for those with any kind of disability, or even like everybody from grandparents who want to come with their children but maybe have some difficulty moving around to any children who want to access our play equipment and are impaired in any way. So those have been sort of the goals that we've worked with the whole time, and we feel really happy with what we've come up with. We've gotten a lot of input from the Rec Commission, from local parents. We've sort of formed this, well, now it's a booster club. It was sort of a subcommittee of the Rec Commission, but now it's sort of a booster club called Red Hook Plays, and that's got, you'll see there's minutes in your board packets, and those are provided to the public in the public folder. So you can see there a list of some of the members of that group. Sheena is co-chairing it, and Kathy Treble is another community member who's involved. Jen Kavanaugh on our CAC, Corinne Molinaro, Shannon Miller, myself, and there have been some others like Kara Costello, Lisa Lauren, Jennifer Norris from the Village. So we've really tried to, and of course Doug Strawinski and John Kuhn from the Rec Commission. So we've really involved a lot of people in this. So maybe we should, I don't know what we ought to do next. We could look at the renderings, or I could walk you through the budget. What would you?
I think
What would you like?
let's look at
Should
the
we look at the renderings, get excited,
Yeah.
the fun stuff? Okay,
Yeah,
so.
let's look at pretty pictures.
Okay, so this is the zoomed out version, and then there should be some more. I see you have 6 slides, so that should like zoom us in a little further, but basically you see this is the layout. You kind of have to use your imagination, because they didn't put in all of our existing trees that are there, and the baseball field's not there, but essentially the layout of the playground would not change. So the little kid side, what we call the 2 to 5 side, is on the right there, and then the big kid side is to the left, with a situation in the middle that's sort of for all ages play. And so,
Should I blow this up and we can maybe look at one side?
yeah, or maybe if you go to the next slide, if you go to the next slide, like there's portions that are, yeah, if you do that, then.
Too optimistic. Next page, there we
There you go. Okay, so here's the little kid side. This is for ages 2 to 5. You've got the existing swing bay, which will stay, but we'll incorporate an adaptive swing, which it doesn't currently have, and also another T-swing there to the left, which would have some toddler swings, which currently we don't have. We only have swings for babies. And this is really for ages 2 to 5, so actually almost a 2-year-old couldn't fit in the swings we have now, so we really need to rethink that a little bit. And then you've got the main play area there in the center. It's a little hard to see from this rendering. We can post these on our website if the public is interested to look. I'm sure they will be. Yeah, there you go. You're zooming a little bit. So you can see there's all kinds of climbing apparatuses.
And that bridge that those
Yes, there's
kids
a-
are on actually moves.
Right, there's a moving bridge, which is, so a lot of these things, and Lior, who's the expert in this, could probably answer any of your questions, but all these things are designed for maximum accessibility and durability, and he can tell you more if the board has questions. The Rec Commission has asked a lot of questions. There's a tube to the right there, there's all kinds of things to climb on, and there's a slide. And then behind there's a freestanding slide, which you have to zoom back out to see, and then a seesaw, and 3, what do we call the things on springs?
little
Leora?
rider things.
The riders, tough riders on
Tough
on
things.
springs.
These things here.
Yeah.
So those things all replace existing equipment, all those things I just mentioned that are in the middle there. There's a piece we call the running piece that people who use the rec park will be familiar with. We're gonna move that over to the big kid side, because that's really more of a big kid piece of equipment. And the metal turtle, that's sort of a vintage nostalgia piece, will stay in the park but be moved toward the welcome sign, since it's really not a piece of play equipment at this point.
We were thinking about approaching the school, the high school maybe, to seeing if any students wanted to paint it, repaint it with a
Or maybe
nice
a Girl
welcoming,
Scout troop,
or
yeah,
Girl Scout
somebody,
troop, nice
um,
welcoming message.
So that's the little kid side, and then maybe if you go to the next slide, we can look at a different, I think there's probably another, so that's the, sort of the back side of that.
Should we talk about the sway fund?
Let's talk about that, well, yeah, so the Sway Fund is the piece at the very top there,
With the
And-
ramp.
that,
This thing here?
with a ramp, yeah.
Okay.
So that is sort of, I think of that as more in the middle portion, but since it's here in this rendering, I think that this is the best version of it. Basically, it's like a giant seesaw that can accommodate, how many kids, Leor?
I can get about 3 or 4 wheelchairs in there,
3 or 4 wheelchairs, or,
Or about
but,
8
and
or
it's
10 kids.
ramped, but, or how many kids?
8 or 10 kids.
8 or 10 kids. And so that's really, it's a piece for all ages, and we think would be a hugely popular piece to and it also would be kind of right in the front there, welcoming people.
So is it like a
It
seesaw?
operates
It's like a seesaw, it
does
basically
that.
sways back and forth, and if anybody's
Doesn't go
interested.
this way.
No,
So the kids interact in it?
yep, and there's kind of like a little table in there, they can
Table, play table.
sit on it, or they can,
There's
they can
benches
hold
on both sides, I think, right?
Mhm. If anybody's interested, any of these pieces have YouTube videos to accompany them, and you can see them in action. We've looked at all of them. So that is a really fun thing. And then if you go to the next slide, I think it's got some more for the middle portion. Okay, so then the other, so starting from the right there, there's a whole, and if you zoom in a little bit, there's a panel that can also be wheeled up to or walked up to easily. We're calling it like a sensory panel. It's really like 3 or 4 panels all together where kids can play in and out. You can see all the way to the right there, Robert.
This thing here?
Yes,
Yes. Okay, there's
It's-
panels there?
Yep, it's got some sound and visual, visually stimulating panels, things that are just great for sensory play, and that's sort of for all ages. And then there's the Cozy Dome, which is sort of in the back there, yep, which would replace the climbing dome. So those things, I don't know, in this rendering, maybe are a little bit further flung than we're thinking of them, almost more as like kind of in that section where the current sandbox is, which isn't pictured here because it's our current equipment, but so those are kind of all ages play. And then if you zoom out just a little bit, you'll see we've added like an asphalt square there so that kids could play games like Foursquare or other kind of ball bouncing games, or draw on it, or what other things?
Hopscotch.
Hopscotch, you know, that kind of stuff. That's really missing in our playground right now. We've got the pathways, but no real like section of area where kids could play like that. Okay, and then so the red climbing piece that's there now will stay. That's that right there. And then there's another type of seesaw thing over here called the Wee Saw, right? It's almost like chairs, 4-chair type seating arrangement, and then you can also get on in the middle there. So how many kids would you say up to with that?
Five kids would be comfortable, and the
Yeah.
kids can wheel up to it and slide right onto it from their wheelchair.
Then you've got the existing swing bay, and the adaptive swing would stay. We'd love to upgrade the existing adaptive swing to one that has a full plastic yoke, so that right now the one that we have has straps that have been vandalized many times, and this one is much more durable and kind of vandalism proof. We'd keep the red tire bouncing piece, I don't know what we call that, but you sit on it and you bounce off the tires, so that's that piece sort of in the corner there, if you're going clockwise at like 10 o'clock. And then in the middle, of course, is like this huge, amazing playing piece with just a ton of every type of climbing and swinging and sliding type of apparatus you can picture, monkey bars and just all kinds of stuff, and like a net type climbing thing. I don't know, Leor, do you want to just kind of like list off some of the features of this?
Yeah, the
Piece.
kind of like that little thing on the bottom there with the different arches. That's called EVOS, and that's kind of designed for kids to play in 360 degrees, so it's very challenging for them mentally. as well as physically, and it also encourages their creative play and a lot of balance as well, which is nice. Then the tower, the one in the back there, I think, did we do 12 feet or 10 feet?
I don't remember. You mean the slide?
Yeah, I mean, the
It's
top of
probably
the
right
tower,
here.
so the top of the tower is,
Well, 10 or 12 feet high.
yeah, 10 or 12 feet high. It's got some great slides there, and also from the top of the tower, it kind of overlooks the baseball field. So kids can be up there kind of cheering for their,
How do they get up? Climb it? Are there ladders in the tower?
what's that?
Are there ladders?
Yeah, there's ladders inside the tower. So a kid can actually, in a wheelchair, can actually get up to the first level of the tower through the steps. They have those what's called accessible wheelchairs, a big semicircle where they kind of wheel up to and kind of sit up to, and then they can scooch up the steps. They're only about 8 inches apart, and which is kind of nice and accessible. The Cozy Dome is a really great piece, that little piece in the back there, that red piece. A lot of kids that have sensory issues like to go in there kind of for time out, and it's also in the shade. And it can also be used as a climbing little structure. And I think Sarah was saying we're probably going to move that further down
Just a little bit closer to that.
to where the sandbox was and everything.
Well, the sandbox is gonna stay.
Yeah, the sandbox is
Make it
still going
clear,
to stay, yeah.
Sandbox that's there is gonna stay.
But that, if anybody's familiar with our Big Kid area right now, essentially what we have is we have the red jungle gym, we've got a big green slide, we've got the swings, and the red tire structure, and that's it. And so this, I think, presents a huge upgrade in what we're offering the kids of Red Hook, which really, you know, the other side of the playground, which has more of the equipment, is really designed for ages 2 to 5. So essentially above age 5, we don't have a lot to offer. We've got a slide and some swings essentially and a couple of small pieces. So this in particular, I'm super excited about because I think it just offers us some amazing opportunities for the kids of Red Hook. So anybody want to say anything else about these designs for right now?
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
about the 5-person seesaw that's kind of down towards the front there? Does that, if you only have 2 people, does it work? I mean, does it have to be full to move?
No, you can have 2 people on there, it'll still work, and it's not one where you get on and it kind of bounces down, so it's not.
'Cause it's kind of on
it's very, very
springs,
safe,
sort of?
yeah.
It's more like on big springs.
Yeah, it's on
right?
springs, and then there's little stops on them. And the seats are designed for kids with low tone, so when they're sitting on there, it's actually designed for them to sit in there, so they're not kind of moving around or falling and flopping over.
A lot of the pieces, we got really great input and advice from parents in the community who have children who have all kinds of challenges and special needs. And so we feel like the pieces we've selected are both like, they're gonna be fun for anybody, probably of any age, but they also will meet a need that we really are not addressing in any way in our playground right now. And we feel like that also, I think that, like, full stop, it meets a need. In addition, it will hopefully provide us with some opportunities for grants and other, funding streams that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get, because there are lots of groups that are looking to fund those kinds of upgrades to existing equipment, so.
Okay, and then the sensory play structure that's kind of in between the 2 areas? You said that has music and such in it?
Yeah, so it's hard to see from these renderings. I'm trying to see if there's,
Well, I guess
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, is
you
it?
can kind of see zoomed in there
Yeah,
that the
that's-
first one, I believe, is a visually stimulating one. Is that right, Leo?
Yeah,
Can
it
you
looks
see
like a gear panel.
Yeah, a gear panel, and then there's
the
bongos. And then there's one called Xylophone, which is like a xylophone, basically.
We also
But you
added
can
the
do it with
braille
your hands.
one.
So you do it with your hands.
We also added a braille one as well.
Yeah, and there's a plan to add a braille panel, and
Correct,
we're
yeah.
not sure where that will be. Do you think I
It'll
don't
be
know if it'll be
right in there with
in
these
there?
panels.
Okay, great.
It could be on the back side, you just can't see it on one of those panels.
Yeah, the xylophone, you can sort of see it on the rendering that is like the back side of the little kid area. It might be the next slide, Robert. Yeah, there, but I guess
Yeah,
it's
I
hard to
see
see
it.
from the screen, but you can see it there.
We wanna go
I
with the
see it.
same thing.
Yeah, so everything is done with your hands, everything is wheelchair accessible, everything is like safe from the elements, right, Leora? Like there's no like, like pieces that are going to get like rusted out or,
Right,
I mean,
everything,
like
everything is powder coated,
Yeah.
and you get, and the facilities guys are gonna get some touch-up paint in case something does get scratched, they can just, and it won't rust or anything like that. And it's also, we use what's called the tender top, so it doesn't get hot to the touch. Some of the other things that we've done is we also have a lot of plate panels inside the tower itself. And wherever there's wire barriers, you can always add panels if you wanted in the future. And it's also, this playground is designed where if you wanted to add stuff to it in the future and expand to it, you can. It's the same color, same clamp, same posts.
And we also feel like, we don't think we're gonna need to do this, but if for financial reasons we needed to phase it in, there are pieces here that we could easily put off for the future, and we could just install like the main structures and then like work on our way out if we needed to. And we feel like we've really looked over what we have existing, what we can keep and keep using, safely, and what we need to say goodbye to and upgrade. We thought potentially we might add a piece that had a custom, like a map of Red Hook, where you could maybe like find where you live, or just use it as imaginative play. That Leroy's company can do that, and one of the panels in the big kid area. So a custom panel like that might be really fun, and something that either celebrates some of our history. I mean, we could do a number of custom panels. They're obviously more expensive, but that's an option that we're kind of excited about once we get like further on in the planning.
Yeah. And you're proposing an engineered wood fiber base here, it looks
Yeah,
like.
so you can see from some of these renderings, basically what we've tried to do is, after looking at the numbers and what's offered, we looked at all the different types of playground surfacing. The engineered wood fiber that we have now is really the most, it's safe, it's cost effective, it's pretty easy to maintain. John and his staff feel comfortable with that option, we feel comfortable with it. It is technically ADA accessible, right?
Yes.
But obviously anybody who's tried to wheel across,
Can be tricky, right?
I mean, I know just with strollers, it's hard, so I can only imagine with other types of
And that's why you
vehicles.
guys have added the pathways.
Right, and so we've tried to add some more asphalt pathways, realizing that obviously
Cut down
nobody's a
on the
huge
trip.
fan of
Yeah.
asphalt, but at least, you can at least get to the areas a little bit more smoothly. So we felt like that was sort of a happy medium compromise.
And that would be preferable over a stone dust type of path?
You can do the stone dust.
Okay,
You have the stone dust right now
yeah,
for the path that goes around the baseball fields, you can use that as well,
okay.
that's fine.
Well, it has to be, the surface has to be easily traversed with a wheelchair.
Yeah.
The
So,
stone dust, I'm not sure it gets that firm.
Well, the
Oh, that's
fine
pretty-
sand dust, there's
Yeah.
stone dust does, what we have now on the track is,
Yeah, it's pretty good, as long as,
Yeah.
you do something that's grass, because that's gonna get muddy.
Oh, yeah.
So if it rains, they can't get anything through, or if it just had rained the day before. The stone dust we find is much better than the wood fiber, even though the wood fiber is still considered accessible.
Well, this is terrific. I would recommend we throw this up on the website, encourage people to go to the web, take a look at these illustrations and give us your feedback.
I think,
Any other things you all would like to present?
I just want to ask a question about the shade, the trees. Because to look at these renderings, it's a little strange without trees.
Yeah, we,
I know where they exist, but I mean, that playground, I thought, was attractive because in many ways it's in the shade.
yeah, it's got great shade, and what we did was
What kind of shade are you gonna have on this?
so wait, can I just say, so if you look in your packets, the site
This
plan,
shows it.
Yeah, the-
Yeah, I know where the trees are,
okay, but the site plan will show you, I mean, the trees are staying, you know.
We're not
other-
getting rid of the trees.
All the trees stay,
If you look in the site
We're not getting rid of
plan,
any of the.
even the trees that are in your, you know, I mean, some are,
So they're kind of working around it.
so the renderings have fake trees, so ignore the trees in the renderings. But if you look on the site plan, it shows where our existing trees are and it gives you a sense of where the new equipment
Yeah.
will fall around the trees. Now, with the
Right.
caveat that at any time, John is always with his staff and with professional tree arborist people, you know, reviewing the health of the trees, and I think he said there's a plan to do that in the next couple of months, and, you know, if a tree has to come out or get pruned or whatever, I mean, that's a separate issue that John is always reviewing for safety, but
Well, it would be
assuming that
good
those
to
trees
know.
stay, yeah.
Because, I mean, they are talking about the fact that they have to take down probably 2 trees.
Yeah.
So that was one thing, and I was thinking too, that, you know, the playground equipment always gets hot.
two of these 5?
I'm not sure if they're in here, but I think they are. So it'd be good to know which 2 trees they're talking about
I think,
and how that might impact.
I think this is after those 2 trees are removed.
You think there's more than 5 trees there now?
Is it,
Well,
oh,
there used to be more than 5.
There used to be a dozen.
They did just take out a couple
Right.
last fall, I think, right?
Yeah.
A few.
A couple that were.
So we'll
dying.
continue to work with John. I put on our summary sheet at the beginning of this packet that our plan right now, assuming that the funding we're counting on comes through between the bond that the town board is committed to and then the possible grants and possible local fundraising, we're thinking we would break ground next April. So, or as soon as construction can happen, but I'm assuming maybe April, I don't know. We'll have to talk to Leor's team about that, but, using a community build, which means we get volunteers from the community, they're supervised by professionals from landscape structures, and we do it in like sort of a weekend or 2 to 3 days, right?
Yeah, we have 2 weekend build.
Yeah, a 2 weekend
There's a couple
build,
of big
okay.
forms that would have to be poured
Okay,
a week
yeah.
in advance, so.
Okay, so, 2 weekends,
But there would be
but
nothing.
so there's time, I guess is what I'm saying, like, once John's crew goes in and figures out about the trees, then we can adjust the plan as needed. At what point would you say is like sort of the drop dead date for like, we gotta have our site plan like kind of finalized and, you know?
3 to 4 weeks before.
Yeah, so we've got up
So
until
we could
next
do
winter.
it this year if we could figure
Yeah,
it
you
out.
could do it in the fall if you wanted.
Yeah, I would say let's stay open to that possibility because we have the majority of the funding, you know, which comes from a
Yeah, the majority,
borrowing.
all the hard part's pretty much done.
Is
Then
done,
deciding what
okay.
you want and the layouts and.
If we could do it in the fall, that would be great.
Is fall preferable as far as time of year or you
It
just?
doesn't, for us, fall, spring, summer, doesn't matter. It just, you know, later in the fall, you just run the risk of snow. And.
Snow.
It
It never
doesn't-
snows here.
Yeah.
You had
We
to
get it all
work
in
in
the
snow
spring.
into this presentation.
But we built up in I did a build in Champlain in November last year,
Okay.
so.
And that's a lot
Okay.
to
That
go.
was just not
Yeah,
fair.
no, we wouldn't wanna do that, and it's kind of pointless to
Right.
put it in only to tell kids, sorry, you can't really take
Exactly.
advantage of it.
Exactly.
But, well,
Yeah.
let's see how we progress with some of these things.
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is, like, there are a lot of moving parts as far as like, like we were talking last night, the rec commission, you know, local staff and people are gonna need to like take out the existing stuff, you know, and then there's got a lot of site preparation work that has to happen. We could do it in the fall, but we'll have to, you know, that really pushes up our timetable for getting all those ducks in a row. It doesn't mean it couldn't happen, but it's a lot to, so anyway, we'll be working closely with John and Doug and they feel confident about how we're gonna work it out.
Great. Well, thank you all very much for your work. I remember the first meeting, sitting there with some of you in the Rec Park Pavilion. How long ago was that? A year and change, maybe? Something like
About
that?
a year ago, I think.
Yeah. One more question, Bill?
Is there like a modern approach to fencing around these playgrounds that you, I mean, there's no fence around, there hasn't been.
Yeah,
Around our
I would
playground.
say it's 50-50. Some of the playgrounds have fences, some don't, and chain link is probably the most popular.
But why would they would have fences to keep
Most of the times I see
people and
fences
animals out or
is
keep people in or what?
the ones that I see fenced off are the ones that have that are in the parks that maybe a road runs through where there's a parking lot right next to it. your parking lot's you're right at the end of the parking lot, which isn't that bad, and you have the fence there.
There is a
There is
fence.
a fence.
It's just you don't want the kids running
So,
out.
so a fence will not be an issue apparently in this.
Yeah, because your baseball field's fenced off, so the kids can't run in there. And if you keep the existing fence, they're not really running out to the parking lot either.
Yeah, we started on the opposite approach in our existing playground, which we think will continue, which is we fenced off the other things. So we fenced off the parking lot, and we fenced off the baseball fields. I think it leaves like a great, like then you can really run and experience the whole space and, you know, do
Yeah,
everything,
And
so.
they did a great job designing it also where if your grandparents bring in a kid, there's a place for the grandparent to sit in the shade and without moving, they can see their kid wherever the kid is in the playground, which is nice too, a lot of nice sight lines.
The pavilion is immediately adjacent as
Yeah.
well.
Exactly.
Well, very good. Thank you again, everyone, for all your work, and we'll be.
Dennis, what are you doing?
Yes, so at some point, and I'm sort of looking at Chris Shaw, because I'm not sure how this works, but I think, like, it's possible that as we go out for grants, we may need some kind of like a resolution, or, I don't know, some kind of thing that shows that the town is like
Well, we've already authorized
supporting.
borrowing for this.
So
We've
is that-
already got, yeah.
So like, just like a copy of that resolution authorizing the borrowing, and that's like,
We'll have to authorize a
I know.
grant
Yeah, if
application.
you,
yeah, and you'd
but if
authorize
you-
the grant application.
Once you
Usually
know
a
what
specific
grant you're
grant.
applying
Yeah.
for, let us
Right.
know, and
Okay.
we'll come and
Okay.
we'll authorize that.
Okay, great, so
To
that's all,
supplement.
okay.
But we should also keep an eye on the project cost, because I don't know if we need to modify the bond resolution to authorize a higher project cost.
Right.
If that's not consistent with the.
Well, so,
current
yeah,
plan.
so let me just talk really quick about project costs. So you can see I've included a couple things here. There's the budget from Landscape Structures, Leroy's company.
Yeah.
That includes everything from all the equipment you saw there to some of the surfacing, like the engineered wood fiber and some of the fabric that goes underneath it and wear mats.
But not the pads, not the.
It does include,
Asphalt,
not the
Asphalt.
asphalt, right.
Right.
Yeah, not the
Anyway,
stuff.
what we're gonna need to do with John and Doug is kind of take this apart and like leaving out all the stuff from Landscape Structures, which obviously like that's a, you know, we're contracting with them to do that, but all the other stuff, like, you know, John says he can probably get engineering, he thinks he can get the wood fiber from his usual source much more cheaply. He thinks, you know, like we'll probably be able to do some of the asphalt, or stone, whatever it is we're going to do for the pathways, you know, with somebody local, or, and I don't know what the highway department does, but, you know, as far as that stuff with the rec park right now, but we're gonna need to have some conversations, like with our local, you know, with the rec commission and any other personnel, like if highway department people are involved, to see, because I think John and Doug have a really good sense of what we can get for what price and all that, so
Okay.
in some ways, like, this is a good starting
Start.
project budget, but we feel like there's kind of almost like I don't know what the word is, but like we maybe need to come up with an internal project budget to get an even better sense. I think that it's not gonna go higher than this, because like I
Because we
said,
can
John
get
and Doug
some.
think they can get some of these things more cheaply.
Okay. Okay.
And we felt, I guess, internally that as far as the Red Hook Plays people are concerned, they're very energized to do some local fundraising and to go after some grants. So we felt like looking at this, like, at least at this time, that we wouldn't recommend or request that you modify that,
Okay.
you know,
Um,
commitment, but
When you
what
have
do you-
more,
yeah.
when you have
So
more
do you-
information, we'll take a look at the project cost that was a part of the authorization. The
okay.
authorization was for $200,000 borrowing. But
Right,
when you
but,
have more information, we'll be able to make a determination.
but I just wanna make sure that you understand that there are two things specified in the bond resolution.
Right.
One is how much you're gonna borrow, but the other is the total project
I see,
cost.
okay.
And we can
So you need
modify
to keep
that
an
if
eye on
necessary.
both of those,
Right.
correct.
So are they both 200,000 though?
200,000?
I,
I don't think we agreed more than that, did we?
we authorized,
Because I thought we authorized a project cost. that was
we had a combo resolution
Right.
for both Rec Park West and for, you know, where it was 1.2, $500,000 bonding for the Rec Park West, $200,000 bonding for the playground equipment. Pretty sure I have that right. So if we need to modify it, we'll modify it. When
Okay.
you have, you know, more information, detailed numbers, we'll take a crack at that. Again, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
We're transitioning now to our next item of the agenda, and if the folks at home want to know what our charge is here at the town board, we're going from the beginning of life to the end of life with our next agenda item. Right, Hildegard? Jackie? Okay. So item number 2, we've been talking about this for quite some time. Thank you all again. We have been very fortunate to have dedicated volunteers managing what is really a terrific community asset. That's the Red Hook Church Cemetery. And if you are wondering where it is, it's just north of the village of Tivoli on 9G. It's got some of the most spectacular views. I encourage you to also look down because the property is also beautiful. It's got a wonderful church. If you go into that building there, it's a very simple building without water or electric, but it sets you back once you step into it a couple of centuries at least. And so we are at the point where those volunteers are no longer in a position to continue to carry on the way they have been carrying on for the last, well, let's just say for quite some time. Yeah. And so we discussed setting this date, March 13th, as the date that we would pass this resolution, which we've had in front of us now for, I think, a couple months. And it is to agreeing to assume the responsibilities associated with the Red Church Cemetery. And so it is, we have received from the Cemetery Association correspondence and also resolutions they've passed in preparation for this time. And we have a resolution number
12.
dated March 13th of 2018. It's a resolution acknowledging the abandonment and acceptance of the Red Church Cemetery and agreeing to accept assets. And it essentially references what I just spoke to you about earlier. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Red Hook as follows, acknowledges the association pursuant to section 291 of the town law is no longer going to be responsible for restoration of future care, preservation, and maintenance of the cemetery, and it shall be assumed by the town. This is prescribed by state town law, by the way, that it is our responsibility to take it over when there are not individuals in an association such as the one that has existed for
100 years.
as of last year, right, or this year, or last year?
Last year.
100 years they've been doing this, so I think it's time for them to take a break. So the town agrees to accept conveyance of the cemetery premises and the transfer of all remaining assets from the association, and this resolution shall take effect immediately. And I so move.
Second.
Is there any further discussion about the property? I have more things to say after we do the resolution, but just about the resolution?
No?
No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So, just very quickly on this topic, a huge thanks to Hildegard and to Jackie and also to John Kuhn, who's been kind enough to jump in there along with Bill O'Neill and others, and Harry, I think you're joining that group as well. And so they are working now on together and trying to get us a list of exactly what we need to do when, so that we're very prepared as we begin this process. And so we have a lot of those documents, and we really appreciate, you know, all of the work that you're going to do as we transition, and for sticking with us so that we don't make any mistakes.
Oh, you'll make them anyway, don't worry.
Okay, good, very good, thank you.
The people who live there won't care.
They won't care, right? Hopefully they're very quiet over there.
They
rise up.
Right,
Thanks for the
exactly.
work.
Okay, well, how was that? Was that quick and painless?
Yeah, do you want to tell them about the resolution I handed you?
Well, we have that,
Oh, you
we
have
have that.
Pass it out to the.
Oh, okay.
We've looked at that. We're all set. All I would say is thank you in advance for the help you're about to give us, and we hope that we do you proud. Okay?
We,
I think you will.
we think, we're very
no
comfortable. We're both very, very comfortable that you will.
Oh, okay, now I feel pressure. Okay. Terrific, thank you again,
Thank you.
both of you, for coming tonight. All right, we're gonna move on to item number 3, and that is just really a 2-second item on the agenda, which is to say this is a first draft. If you would be kind enough to please take a look at this between now and the next meeting. It's the RFP for the municipal solar farm project. It has input from our attorney as well, but we'd like to get your input on it. This is a compilation of RFPs that were developed in other communities and model RFPs through NYSERDA. So I know that you've only recently had this in front of you. If you would please just put it on your calendar for the next 15 days to review it and get back some input so we can stay on schedule with potentially pursuing that
Can I ask you a
project.
question? Can I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the anchor tenants are the 3 municipalities and the library.
Library, yeah.
But what about the school and the fire company? We don't designate them as anchor tenants?
No, the fire company, as you know, already has that. We went and got that grant back in 2009 for their project.
But I mean, we don't need to include them in this project?
No, they cannot be included.
Participate in both projects.
Yes.
They can't.
They're not eligible. The school unfortunately is too large to be included in this project to make this project financially feasible. So they'll have to pursue other avenues on that.
But if and when the project gets up and running, would they be included in the benefit of the project?
No, I just
The
said
school?
it cannot be. Cannot be
Cannot
because of,
be, huh?
yeah, they pay such a low rate that they'll have to pursue some other avenues.
And the fire company can't because they have their separate one?
They have 100% from solar.
They haven't had
They
a power
don't
bill
need to
in 2 or
participate.
3 years.
Right. Okay, next is,
Neither one of those entities, huh?
no, well, we've taken care of the fire company. It's all done.
Well, what I'm thinking of is when we talk out at the public about what the project is about and how it will benefit people, there had been initially some discussion that the school or the fire company would be benefited, but apparently not.
No, there was never a discussion of the fire company. The school was initially maybe
Okay.
thrown out there. All right?
The fire company has an adequate system to give them more than 100% of the power
Yeah.
they use.
Yeah.
So they
What
have,
about the Tivoli Library? No?
The Tivoli Library is included because that library is within the Tivoli Village Hall. So Tivoli Village Hall is one of the anchor tenant accounts. The Red Hook Village
Which
Hall,
includes the village and the library.
the library is within that building. It's the same, they don't have a separate electric meter for that.
I mean, it benefits all the taxpayers and, you know, I mean, in that sense, you know, it doesn't
Right.
benefit the school as an institution, but I mean, we're all that institution in terms of how it is funded, so, I mean, it does benefit in some ways, but yes, their bills can't be offset.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, as we heard from our last meeting.
Can I just, Bill brings up a good point though.
Sure.
I just wonder, and of course this is new to me, so I'll have to study up on it more,
Yeah.
but the life of the project is 20 years, right?
The life of the agreement is 20 years.
Right,
The
life of
life of the
agreement, right, sorry,
project
life of the
will go on
agreement.
beyond that.
So would it make sense to specifically name the Tivoli Library just in case within 18 to 20 years they at some point moved out of the village hall and they would still, because then they couldn't get into it anymore?
You can only name a meter, in essence.
Okay, so
Okay.
since they don't have a separate meter, you
Yeah.
can't name it, okay,
Yeah.
all right, thank you.
No problem. Good questions. Okay, sorry, back to LED streetlights. We heard from our Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium at the last meeting. Their recommendation that we pursue with NIPA, the turnkey solution, that NIPA was not only low as far as their offerings for installation and maintenance, but that they had procured over 500,000 light bulbs at prices that nobody can compete with, and that the turnkey solution would be easier and cheaper for us. And so, NIPA has submitted an initial proposal which includes in the proposal sort of a summary of the project, how it works, the costs associated with it. And there's a recommendation from the Mid-Hudson Streetlight Consortium, which I gave to you, I think, just before the meeting, that we take the very first step, which is to sign a letter of authorization where they will develop, in essence, a specific design proposal for us. And that cost of $3,000 and change would be split amongst the three various accounts. One is the general account, one is the town lighting district, and the other one is the Bard lighting district. As you know, we don't pay for the Bard lighting district, Bard does, but we are the authority on that district and we make all determinations. So this is a rather lengthy proposal here, but all we need to do tonight is to just authorize them to develop a detailed proposal with this letter of authorization. And that is one of the appendices. It should be Appendix A. There it is. Okay, and the authorization is authorizing the New York Power Authority to proceed with the next step of the energy efficiency program, which is to prepare the final design report and to conduct bids for materials and installation labor. So this is how the estimates that they've given us, which are terrific, are actually conservative estimates. These are sort of do not exceed numbers, if you will. And so they're going to provide a more detailed design and estimate for us. The amount that we would need to advance is at $3,869.29, again to be split between the three accounts.
I like the streetlights they show on page 15. They of course come with this program, right?
Which one?
Oh, yeah.
Page 15?
You
Page
mean the
15.
poles and everything? Like that whole thing? The whole setup?
Yeah, I like those. In the commercial area, I think they really, one of the villages across
Oh,
the.
you like the historic ones,
No,
yeah.
yeah, the historic look.
Well, it's suitable for use in historic districts, but I don't think, I mean, we'd already have to have those nice historic light poles, right? Or we have to
Right.
buy them ourselves.
Right, well, don't forget
We can get them in the
the
junk.
villages
Hand me down.
that are involved in this 18 municipality consortium will, be able to choose
Yeah. with the one.
whatever lights that they want, just like we will, and where they want them. Again, this is to start to develop a detailed thing, and Harry, you better get ready, because you're gonna be on deck to review the actual fixtures and bulbs and whatever. Not yet, but pretty soon, we're headed that way for you.
I want to know the Kelvin ratings and stuff.
Right, so we're gonna have to choose those,
So
yeah?
can I just ask, so of the not to exceed proposal that they have on page 18.
Page 18, okay.
That's the numbers, right? For the
Right, and just for clarification,
155,000 and change.
right, so
Uh-huh.
for clarification, in the main document, we have the town, general account, and the lighting district. I also asked them to include, you'll see in the addendum, the Bard Lighting District.
Yep.
Even though that is not a cost to us,
Right.
we have to forward this information to Bard, get their approval, and then they have to, pay for the switching over to the LED.
But the 155 includes the light bulbs and all that stuff for that,
It's-
for BART too.
It does not.
Oh, it does not?
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't
These
include the light bulbs either?
It does not include anything for BARD. What
Oh,
we
okay.
have in this main document is just for the town proper. I had asked for them to also create the sheet for BARD,
Okay,
okay?
all right, well, that's one then, okay.
So that answers that, so you know, because we have to forward this to BARD, they have to agree, they have to forward the money,
But,
and so on and so forth.
wait, maybe this is a dumb question, but,
Yes,
okay, so this is for just the town, like I say, 201.
What page are you on?
I'm just talking generally.
Oh.
You see my hand gestures, it's just like,
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
That's page,
page, whatever,
Yeah.
stay on whatever page you're on.
yes.
Anyhow, what I'm saying, okay, so it says 201 fixtures, so this is for the town, but are we deciding, we already did decide on behalf of the whole consortium to go with this, right? I remember last time when we reviewed the
Yes, so
whole.
what we
So we
said,
already decided that, and now we're just reviewing this for our specific town, but like, all the other towns and villages are gonna get a similar packet, is that right?
exactly right,
Okay.
exactly right. They're all reaching out now tonight, but to
Okay.
get
this is tailored to us.
Yeah.
their proposal.
I mean, it looks tailored to us, I'm just trying to, okay, I
Yes.
got it.
So at this point, we're kind of on our own, if you will, but
Yes.
we're still the template that the
Yep.
other municipalities will be using.
Okay, so back to my second question.
Yes, ma'am.
So Harry was, looking at the light fixtures and such, and that's something that's gonna come up next. But, so I was looking at this, and on page 14, they have all these various things that are called add-on options. Some of them are quite extensive. So, that is, if we wanted to do any of these kinds of things, that's something we'd have to tell them to add into these costs, right? Because that's, so they're add-ons, so they're not in this 155.
You're talking about
I'm on
page,
page
sorry,
14.
14,
Where it says add-on options, where you can get sensors and,
yes,
all that kind of stuff.
yes,
So that would be above and beyond
exactly
this
right.
price we'd have to pick.
We are going to
If
be.
we wanted some of those, we have to pick them and then they would add those on.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
And just so you know, we will be add-on ready. And I'm sure that's not the technical term for it, okay?
Right.
But we will have these adapters essentially ready, these 7-pin,
So we don't
Adapters.
necessarily have to choose to do it now?
exactly right,
Alright.
exactly right. All right. So we're gonna, this is when we start actually working on our project, as soon as we forward this
Yeah.
letter of authorization, and that's where, Harry, get ready.
So are you considering this tonight or?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep, and it's just the letter of authorization so that they can get started. We could forward stuff to BART for their review.
so this
And
is,
then, and we would have to encumber this 38,
so the,
60
right, so the
Yes.
resolution to approve this, this is a slightly different version of the letter than I had seen, so the
Okay.
dollar amount needs to be adjusted to this
Yes.
updated letter.
Yes,
Um, So it's 3869.29.
that's correct. And we have resolution number 13, I believe it is. Do we have the resolution?
We don't have a resolution.
I don't have a resolution either. So would you be kind enough to let me borrow yours?
Yes, could I make copies for the board?
You
Would
can,
that be
or I
more
can just read it
efficient?
verbatim.
I don't know, you just read it.
Just read it.
I'll just read
If you
it?
read it verbatim.
I'll read it verbatim.
Copy later.
It's resolution number
So you
13,
have that copy.
dated March 13. It's a resolution authorizing preliminary agreement with the New York Power Authority regarding the LED streetlight replacement project in the town of Red Hook County of Dutchess, State of New York. Whereas whereas the town board of the town of Red Hook herein called town board and town respectively in the county of Dutchess, New York, has authorized the increase and improvement of facilities of the consolidated lighting district and the barred lighting district for LED lighting. And whereas the town board is considering the proposal from the New York Power Authority, NYPA, for a turnkey LED lighting replacement project, and whereas the town board is proposing to undertake the initial planning, design, and bidding phase of such NYPA proposal at a not to exceed cost of $3,869.29 for such initial phase. And whereas it is hereby determined that the aforesaid purpose constitutes a type 2 action as defined under the State Environmental Quality Review Regulations, Part 16, which is determined under seeker not to have a significant impact on the environment, and now therefore be it resolved by the town board of the town of Red Hook as follows. The execution of an authorization for the planning, design, and bidding phase of the LED streetlight proposal from New York Power Authority for a turnkey LED lighting replacement project at a not to exceed cost of $3,869.29 for such initial phase is hereby approved. The officers, employees, and agents of the town are hereby authorized and directed for and in the name and on behalf of the town to do all acts and things as may be necessary or in the opinion of the officer, employee, or agent acting desirable and proper to the effect the purposes of this resolution. This resolution shall take effect immediately. And I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Thank you all very much. Okay, moving right on to,
Robert? Sorry.
yes ma'am.
Pass that to Sue.
To Sue.
Has it, and
Sue,
then-
would you be kind enough, and also if we could get some
Work with
copies
Karen
later on.
I don't need it.
We don't need it right now. Discussion of the social media policy, Sarah had asked that we continue to advance that. I have some notes that I put on, and I don't know that they're all the notes that I have, but I put on the draft that I had, and I shared them.
Yes.
Okay.
Did you share them with me? You did, right?
They're in the
Or
folder.
they're in the folder? Okay.
They're all,
Oh, I
and
see
everybody's
this.
got
Okay.
my notes on it.
Well,
Um,
I would just say unfortunately, I did ask for that last week, I think, when we were going over the agenda, but this is like crazy push week for the new website, so I haven't had time to finish some of the stuff that I want to do, but I think, let's talk about it, because we should keep that ball rolling forward, and that was my thought last week as we were kind of recovering from storms, and a number of different people had talked about, how much they appreciated what social media was happening, particularly through your account, but other places as well were sharing information, which was so important for people. But also that obviously it showed us in maybe a more concrete way than usual how much we could really benefit as a community from some kind of town, official Facebook page. And so I thought, well, let's just bring it up now so that we can keep that ball rolling, because I think the issues we have with the policy draft that we have, they're not anything that we can't kind of polish up and figure out in a month and weeks, whatever, and just go ahead and get started with this, so.
I mean, my general feeling is that I would like to see the website up and running. Folks, having that ability, one of the reasons that we are redoing our website for the folks at home is so that we can have this particular capability where you can sign up to be notified about topics that are related to your community, the topics you care about. Certainly when there's emergencies, you may very well want to receive an alert from us notifying you that a road is closed or where the warming center is. We want you to have that ability to hear from us on information that you would find to be important. So my suggestion would be is before we launch into, say, a town Facebook page, I would like to see us put our new website together, see what people sign up for, and see if there's a way that we can communicate with them, either via email, text, cell phone call, or landline, and maybe start a little slowly. That would be my inclination, I don't know how others feel.
I agree.
That was succinct.
In the communications committee,
Very succinct.
something we've talked
Why
about
not?
is, the challenge of telling people that we have a new website. So it's a little bit of a chicken and an egg, right? Like, I think one way we're gonna tell them about the website is through social media. That's a
Yeah.
big way, right? And so in some ways, it's a little bit like, well, what do we do first? Do we do a town Facebook page and use our existing site as best as we can? In some ways, I like that approach because then we at least try it. And it's not gonna be perfect whenever we start it, whether we have the new site or not. But we could maybe work out some of the kinks of like, probably the model we're gonna go with is one where we have a bunch of administrators. And that can be tricky, and we're gonna have to come up with a way of making sure that everybody knows like when different types of posts could be scheduled to go up there. And how are we monitoring how the content is consistent and within the policy?
And who
So
does the monitoring?
Yeah.
that's the question, right? And so, but
Doesn't that invite a whole lot of work and confusion?
Yeah, sure.
And complexity?
it does,
Maybe
but
we-
but
maybe
the
we
so
can
the
come
thing
up
is like,
with
but it
some-
could.
so a lot of that work though is
All over
already
the country
happening.
is causing
Bill.
issues, right? People put all sorts of stuff on.
A lot of that work is already happening, if you're on social media, then you know that a number of us already post things, and there's a felt need by, say, the highway department and some other departments, I think, like the rec department, who already either have their own pages or would like to have them to post information for the public. But I hear that,
You
and
couldn't do
some
that
on
through
the
the
communications
website?
committee also felt that they didn't want to launch a Facebook page or presence or Twitter or anything else without a nice, beautiful website to back it up.
Yeah.
So I can see both sides, and I guess my leaning right now is to launch it maybe a little closer, so we're not gonna have the new website till the end of July, mid-August. That's the date we have right now from the consultants, once we've rolled everything out. So I would prefer to see us try a social media presence earlier than that, say maybe by May or June, so that we can start building an audience. And that way, then when we have the new website, it's sort of like, look what we have, and it creates even more buzz. But that's my feeling.
Well, how are you gonna implement this?
for the website? What platform are we using for the
Civic
website?
It's using Civic Plus, it's proprietary through that consultant, yeah.
Okay. Is it supposed to be user-friendly? Does it
Yeah.
look like it is? Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Chicken and egg, where does this come fall in the announcement of that? Where does this apply and when?
Well, we
Where
need
does
to
this
know what
apply?
we're doing in order
So
to have a
this,
policy.
this document, this policy, it's outlining, like, what is the purpose of social media as far as the town's concerned? Who is authorized to post from the town perspective on our pages? Do we allow comments by the public or don't we? What kinds of comments and what kinds of material are appropriate for the accounts? What else? What the town is authorized to remove, or, what else?
So is it-
Like kind of
so
a mission statement of what
Where
it
does this
means.
actually fit into this process?
Of what process?
Now
Where's the
or
process?
Well, we should
when-
adopt
when-
this before we
we have a
establish
social
a
media.
social media presence.
Yeah, we need to adopt this, so right now we already have a social media policy.
But some of this
And
has
basically all
falls
it
in the
says is-
design of the.
This doesn't fall into the design of the website. The
Social media
website will be
policy.
designed with share buttons, like so that you could share it on Facebook. But that's like so that if I'm going on your website, I can share it on my Facebook account. It doesn't have anything to do with the town Facebook account, okay? We don't ever have to have a town Facebook account as far as the new website is concerned, other than it's a great way to get information out. So just to be clear about that, does that help a little bit?
Yeah, so.
It's really a
if-
separate thing,
if you
it's
make-
just that it's also together because we've got a communications committee that's thinking about both things. Because they're both ways of communicating. You have a puzzled look on your face, or a concerned look. No? You're not.
I'm reluctant to start that way. Me personally, I'd like to see us start slowly, have this website, have people sign up for what they wanna receive. We begin to send them those kinds of communications. I would rather that than do a Facebook page where we have to pay attention all the time to what's happening, the responses, whether we take things on or off. If we start with, folks sign up and they want notifications, and we send them those notifications on those topics, I think that's a great way to start. I'm not sure I'm comfortable starting with
So-
the other way around.
Okay, but I hear what you're saying, but we're gonna post the same information on a Facebook page, whether it's starts tomorrow or in September after we have our new website. I mean, the information is going to be things like, everything from a weather alert, but more like town-specific things, like the recycling center is changing its hours, right? Or like,
But that doesn't have to be
that
on
kind
a
of stuff.
Facebook
It
page,
doesn't
that
have
can
to
be,
be, but-
that's the whole
but-
point of
right.
creating this website, was that it pushes all the information that people ask for.
okay, but people aren't gonna use the website because they don't know it exists,
No, but.
unless we put it out on social media.
I understand that challenge.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about that. But yes, we can announce that we have a new website, we can get the word out, we can do a mailer, we can do all of those things to get people there. It's very different from a management perspective, when people ask for something and then the town delivers that information, as opposed to you have a public social media Facebook page where other people are chiming in also, and then you have a whole different level of management where you have to ensure that what's being posted oftentimes meets the accuracy standard that you wanna have if you're delivering it through your website. Does that make any sense? If you have the public chiming in on the same topics.
Well, so I mean, I'd say a couple things. One thing is like right now, the way we've written it, it allows comments. We can easily turn comments off. So you could have a Facebook page that posts information that then if I wanna comment on it, I have to share it on my own page and make whatever comment I wanna make about it, positive, negative, whatever. So if it's the commenting that we're concerned about as far as managing that, that's solvable simply by starting out with no comments possible. You can do that. And I think it's something we could think about.
I think what you guys are talking about is going to evolve and percolate to the surface as this is designed and put together. The questions that will be answered at the appropriate time in the design. So,
Well, I think, I'd just like to add that, I don't know if you've gotten to this point yet, but, managing and maintaining social media accounts takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So we do have to take into account, and reading through the policy about if we do allow comments, how that happens, how people have to identify themselves from the town, the way that things have to go up there, which you can't always set up templates for those kinds of things in various social media options. So I think it's really important to take into consideration the amount of time that we might be asking employees to find to participate and monitor social media accounts.
Yeah.
So, social media, everybody uses it, it's big, it's important, but again, if the website has an opportunity, or will have an opportunity, for someone to go there and then share it. So if the employees already make the time to post things on the website, and then, like the rec committee, let's say, right, they could be putting a lot of stuff up all the time. Changes in program times, registration things, I would imagine that they could use it all the time. So, if they were to make a few connections with key, like yourself and then your Red Hook moms and some folks through the school or whatever, so that those people would then share the information from the website, maybe if we test that as a way to go, so they don't have to find the time to put it on the website
Well, we're already
and
doing
to
that
do it in
though.
a social
I
media.
mean, we're already doing that, so we know how that works, and it works, but it's not the town of Red Hook having a voice. It's, Supervisor McKeon posts something, not from a Supervisor McKeon page, but from his personal page, which is made public, but I'm just saying, it's still like a personal Facebook post. Or I'll post something from either my council person page or my personal page, or Dick Wambach will take it from Red Hook Today or whatever the number of, there's a bunch of different
Right.
Red Hook things you can follow. It's all getting out there the way you're talking about.
Right.
It is right now.
Yeah.
And we also have a model now where like the rec commission, I believe, has its own Facebook page.
They do?
Yep, they have their own, that they post about the summer program, and any department is able to make a page right now, so the town.
No, they aren't.
No, they're not.
That is not permitted under our policy. I'm sorry.
Until the town had a Facebook page, because I was told that we were waiting for the town to have a Facebook page and we'd be part of that.
You are
The
correct. The
existing-
only party that's supposed to have a Facebook page that was authorized is the St. Margaret's Committee. They were specifically authorized by the board pursuant to the original policy. Nobody else should have one.
The CAC
Right now.
has one that's authorized.
Well, they're not authorized.
It
It was
is
not authorized by the board.
As far as I know, we can look at the minutes, but they came to the board and asked for permission before they created one.
Did they? I don't
Well, it was
remember that.
before our time, it was one
Okay.
Sukarno supervisor.
I can't recall.
That's been going for years. St. Margaret's has one, Rec Commission has one. I don't think anybody else has one that I can think of, but,
But we had wanted to have one,
The
but we were
Trails
told to
Committee-
wait until the town
right.
had one.
The Trails Committee has requested one. I mean, this is the thing, is like a lot of people would like to be on there, and, you know, that's another model, is each department has one. I just think that's in some ways messier than having one that, you know, they're both messy. But in any case, I hear what you're saying about the administrative headaches and all that. It's just, it's not, my opinion, it's not avoidable. Like, this is not something that we can just say, like, we're just going to use our website and we're not gonna be on social media. My opinion, the communications committee opinion, we need to figure out what our policy is gonna be and what our presence is gonna be, but we should have something out there.
Yeah, I don't dispute that, I just think we should start with the website. The whole point was that people would be able to sign up for what they want, we could push it directly to them. And that's how they will gain the information. They may not want all the other things that come along with the social media aspects. And I'm not disputing that we might not get there soon thereafter. I just don't think it's the right way to proceed. I think we should start with the website, see how it goes, refine that, get that correctly, and then maybe branch out and figure out what kind of social media we do want to do and how we want to do that and how it fits in with the rest of the announcements and stuff that we're considering sending to our constituents.
Right, has the communications committee done any work yet in, you know, evaluating, I guess for lack of a better word, social media options for the town?
Yeah,
Okay, and are there minutes of those meetings or something that I can catch up on?
I think so. Yeah, let me look, because I don't think I've sent them to the website yet.
Okay.
Bad communicating. But yeah, let me find those and I can circulate them, and we should get those on the website.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've looked at what other towns are doing.
Right.
And that's part of how this has evolved.
Yeah.
If that's what you mean, Christine, what the options are, is that what you mean? Like,
Well, yeah, I mean,
what
it's
other
just
towns
like,
do, what?
yeah, now do we, maybe the recommendation is that we only have a Facebook page and we're not gonna do Twitter and, you know,
I mean, you can
emails,
see
or
on here,
maybe it's
we've tried to
Twitter
write it
and
so that
Facebook.
you could,
Yeah.
so that we wouldn't have to revise it every time like a new platform gets created that we might want to use, you know?
Well, again, you know, the more platforms, you know, the more administrative time that's
Yeah.
required, the
Sure.
more review time that's required. You know, if you're, as I think I hear you saying, you know, for the town to have a voice, you know, that makes me think that there's gotta be some sort of central point for the voice, right? So, and if every you know, the rec committee I know could have a lot of information, I'm sure the highway department could have a lot of information. So maybe you've already looked at this in the communications committee, because you wanna avoid a bottleneck to, getting that information out there. And if you just wanna, there's a lot, as you know, I'm sure as you've been working on, there's a lot of moving pieces and moving parts to it. So that's I'll have to catch up on what the committee has talked about already and how far they are in their review of the different platforms and how it could work, but.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say,
It
like,
just
there-
takes way more time than you ever think it's gonna take when
Oh,
you do
yeah,
it.
no, I know.
Yeah.
There's really not an easy answer to that. I
Right.
mean, the thing is, like, every town is different. Some towns, they just have like a council person that's like their thing, you know?
Right.
And, you know, again, every town's different. Like, some are posting every day, some post everything from kitten pictures to highway department updates, and others post, like once a week, a schedule of events or, I mean, like it's a little, there's really no like guideline. And so we have tried to do some thinking about what would work best for the town of Red Hook, trying not to lock us into something where, once, let's say we have an election and like the town board changes and there is no town board member that wants to be an administrator, like we don't wanna like lock ourselves into one model where like, well, it has to be a council person or nothing, right? Because we think that more flexible is going to be better, that there are some employees, for example, like the highway department clerk perhaps, who would feel comfortable posting, authorized things, again, like according to the policy. So there might be some employees, but there also might be some council people, or maybe even a volunteer, like a communications committee person who might want to. I mean, the problem is, of course, that creates its own headache, because it's a team approach, and a team is like, its own special
And you had a
thing to
possibly
administer, so.
6 or 7 posts on
control.
one day and nothing for 2 weeks.
Well, it could, I mean, so that's why we need a strong social media policy that makes it really clear, like, here's what's appropriate to post, here's what's not, all that stuff, so, anyway.
The White House can't keep it under control.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's not
All right.
something we were gonna decide tonight, obviously,
Okay.
but,
So
Okay.
more food for thought, and let's find out what our colleagues are doing in other communities. That's essentially all we have for tonight. We have some correspondence, and at our next meeting, we're gonna do some reorg. But before we close tonight's meeting, is there any public comment? Anybody wanna make
I
any
had a
public?
question on the funding for the truck. Was that just an approval to move the funds, or was it an authorization to
It's
purchase?
an authorization to purchase. It's been moved into the capital account for the truck.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because we can't start
Yeah.
without that.
Yeah.
I do have just a brief public comment, since Linda's not here. This past week, someone said to me that we got through the past few storms just fine, and maybe you don't need 6 trucks. And that kind of bothered me. This person had no idea how difficult it was during the last 2 storms. All they saw was the final result. The roads were cleared. I want to let people know how tough it was to have the extended runs. For the crew, it meant more time in the trucks, less break, less sleep, and a lot more stress. Being in a truck under storm conditions for 12 to 14 hours at a time is exhausting. Imagine driving in a blizzard with no relief crew. You can't stop until you're done, you have no choice. But we did it. I want to thank the board for purchasing the new truck, and even though it won't be here until May, it's definitely better late than never. Spring is coming, and so is next winter, and we'll be better prepared to take care of the roads with our normal fleet restored. I just want to say thank you again.
Sure, thank you, and thank the crew for doing such a good job. And, that leads to the next thing, which is hopefully we'll have this brush truck, the truck that we just approved, the expenditure for us to collect the brush, and we're figuring out where to put it. We know there's a lot of brush alongside the roads that fell on the roads, and we'll do our best, you'll do your best, and the crew will do your best to get to that as soon as we're able to do that. So we appreciate your patience. We've lost several trucks in the last 24 months or so. We're doing our best to get them back in action. Okay, at this time, I would entertain a motion to go into attorney-client. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Oh, thank you, Christine. Okay, thank you all for joining us tonight, and hopefully spring is upon us.